Hey guys, how's it going? It's Saturday. It's real nice out. I think we're touching about 50 degrees, which feels again like 70 when you're not used to it. The only downfall is the amount of muck and mud and water that's thawing out, and it's trying to creep up my garage door. But I think we should be okay. Did some more work on the single cab. I'll show you that. Without further ado, all the decking is welded down. I did have some problems, and they were self-inflicted wounds, so to speak. You guys remember before I was dealing with my two welders. One is, they're both about the same size welder. Running on flux core, and the other one is running on the bottle. I had a problem before. The other one was swapped the other way around, and it just never welded very well on the bottle. So I swapped them over, put that one on flux core, and switched over my little Lincoln here onto the bottle, and just didn't weld right. Now the tank that was in there was almost empty. The gauge was all the way down on the high pressure side, but on the low pressure side it still showed that I had 20 pounds. Well, it just kind of stayed on 20 pounds and stayed on 20 pounds, and I figured eventually it's going to have to drop off the main gauge down to nothing, and it kind of did. But to make a long story short, this gauge is no good. When you turned it up to 20 pounds, and if you shut the wire feed off and you hit the trigger and you listen to the end of it, nothing was coming out of it. So essentially I was welding with no gas on the wire, and that makes for a very kind of like a porous, brittle, non-penetrating weld. So I ended up welding the whole decking like that to a certain point where I stopped when I thought I ran out, but that was not the case. It was just not having enough gas come out of there to shield it, and it made for a bunch of crappy welds. So I had to weld every 5 inches on every rail. I ended up having to grind those flat again, re-weld the top of them, and then grind them down again to try to get some kind of I don't want this top surface to leak down in below, so I was afraid of porousness around those, so I had to re-weld them. And after I did that, probably show you some spots a little bit better. Here's a little bit better. So what I did after that was, that's the stock weld, that was the stock weld. I went in between and I offset every other weld and drilled them out again and remade some plug welds to make sure I had a good bond. And then I ran around the edge all the way around again and re-welded that one more time. So finally I got it squared away. Of course, now I started introducing some heat, so you started getting a little bit of this, but again, it's meant to look, it's supposed to look like it's old, so I guess in the long run that should be okay, but it just kind of was aggravating. I took these D-ring tie downs. They are welded just wherever there would be bolts is where I welded them, and I took them in a sandblaster, and I sandblasted them first, and I figured that when I put the mix of rust solution on it, that these would rust out too, along with the big D-rings. That just did not happen. They just stayed. I don't know if the galvy underneath or what the issue was. These were like a gold color, and I sandblasted that off. I figured they would have rust, but oh well. It makes for some contrast in between. And I also welded a piece of angle across the front, and that reattached the front wall. And I used flux core on that because I was welding rusty crappy metal to clean metal, and I seem to find that work a better solution. The tie downs look good. Trying guessing on locations. I put these big D-rings I put in the 4 corners, so if I have something large on there I can grab those 4 corners and hide it down. But I figure if I have like a couple of bikes or something stacking, say one here and one here, I wanted to kind of space them out without having to have a short run and then a long run to the other side to tie them down. So that's why I went with the 2 center posts that you see there. The winch is set up to go into the middle. It's all drilled out, and I have a bar that goes underneath that's going to tie that rail and that rail together once I bolt it. Those are the only 2 holes I drilled, but I'm going to seal those up pretty good before I bolt the winch down. That's going to go something like that, the right direction. Yeah, like that. I had to let out a bunch of the cable so that I can get the bolts in That's why all this cable's out like it is. So the winch is going to go right there and get bolted in, and I got to punch. I do have to punch 1 or 2 more holes for the power lead to go down underneath and pick up power from down below. And the remote's going to stay on top also. So I wanted to come up with something to make that so you don't see the winch anymore and actually kind of protect the winch and whatnot. So let's think of what I could put over the top of it, and here's a bunch of this ideas that I came up with. You got a couple of old coolers. The coolers are kind of big though for the amount of space that the winch takes. That bread box is probably the best physical size to be the least obtrusive but still be able to cover the winch. And here's a cooler there I was going to go with, and then I found this old Johnson gas tank, which I thought probably would have looked the coolest. The only thing that kind of stops me from doing this, well, a couple things. One, that's a pain in the ass, it still has gas in it, and I got to torch out the bottom of it so it could slip over. And the other is the fact that it's got writing on it, the Johnson gas tank, and I got a bunch of different ones of these. The problem is I didn't want the writing on this tank to start. You can get too busy with too much artwork. They starting to compete with each other. Now you're going to have the writing on the side of the truck and then more writing in the back of it. So I figured I kind of want to leave the back more of a monotone, we'll say. So with that, I decided not to use any of those, and what I'm going to look for is kind of like a Tommy shoebox, but before, before he does them. Just a nice ratty old toolbox. It might have some kind of, maybe some, small labeling saying Craftsman or something like that on it. But I'm in no hurry to go do that. I'll wait for yard sale season to start, and whatever I figure I find, roughly about this size will probably be a good size, that bread box. And the fact that that has the lid that kind of flips up, which is nice too. I can kind of tuck the cables in and put the lid back down on it, pack it away. So where I am right now is I want to put that back window in. It's ready to go. I got the seam all waxed up. I got the window kind of ready to go. I am still waiting on my wheel bearing. It was supposed to be here yesterday, but I think the storm's kind of delayed stuff. You can kind of see what it is dripping a little bit. But that's it. I can get that on there. This thing I could fill it up with gas, and I should be able to at least yard drive it. The only thing I'm missing is the front seat for actually taking it out on a road test. But I figure I'd grab you, and we'll see about trying to get this rear window in here without damaging it. And I figured I'll make for some kind of something to watch instead of just me doing an update on everything. Maybe I'll actually do something on video. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Yeah, that's not too smart. But I want to get the rubber mat down below just in case it does take a header out of that hole. It gives us a fighting chance. So what I've already done is already taken wax. I've already ran the wax around the window opening just to keep that from rusting behind it. Not that it looks all that bad, but so I'm going to plop you on the dash. I have a feeling it's going to end up being a little dark. Let's see how that looks for you. That's kind of dark. And you're a little low. Alright. We're going to go put a tube of silicone under you. Do you think if I close that garage door, we'll get a little better? Maybe the light won't be in the wrong direction. It looks a little better. So basically all I have right now is a real thin piece of wire wrapped around that glass. There's a channel that you could pull on, and that's where you put that wire in. just to fall in there like it should. So I'm gonna have to take some silicone and spray the rubber with it. Let's see how that does for us. Just using some silicone spray. Alright, try that again. Ooh, he's slippery. He's a slippery kid. I'm making a video. Oh, my bearings are in?
No, somebody from Arizona.
Okay, that's my part. Bearings. Came out of there. I don't want to smack that glass. How bad I'm trying not to push on that glass. This is where you need a friend. Yeah, that's not forward or far enough. That's no way gonna work. So. The silicone tends to evaporate over time. Well, guys, you know what? Sometimes when you get the camera on, you feel like you're being rushed, and that might not be a good thing. So I am going to go take my time and kind of figure out why that's not going in the opening. This lip could be bent up a little too high. We'll see, because that back wall did get beat on pretty good. But it's just not wanting to slide in there like the windshield did, that's for sure. So, I'll let that be. That should be my wheel bearings though. Let's see what we got. I'll plop you down. Get us a blade. Let's see what we got. What I decided to do on the rust on the bed, as you can see, I got to go clamber over the back of it. I think at the end of each day I'm going to spray it down to give it a little bit of a more rust each time before I wax the whole thing. All right, let's see what we got. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Lift it up a little bit. Motor came in for that snowblower finally. It's a short block. There we go. All right. That should be it. Just got to clean it up. And that'll take care of that bearing in there. Alright, is it me or does that case look bigger than that? Does that look like it fits inside there? I do have another bearing around, which I thought was the right one. And I know the OD seemed correct. So if the outside of this one is the same, yeah, we're good. A little wider too, huh? Alright guys, well, I'm gonna go take my time and try to get that window in there instead of making a mess, and see if we can get that to go without too much trouble. I'm not quite sure what to do right now. Might have to put a piece of wood. I think what's happened is that top lip is kind of relaxed a little bit, and I think maybe the bottom one's the same way. It's kind of leaning back. So I'm going to take probably a 2x4 and I'm going to beat on that a little bit, try to bring that lip down, give it a little bit more room. It seems like it's just too tight this way to get in there. So, alright guys, again, thanks for watching, comment, subscribing, and hopefully very shortly after I get that wheel on there, I can put some gas in this and maybe do a little putter anyway. Again, take care. Bye.